Good evening. Welcome to Thames Speaks on MNTV. Thames Speaks is a program where we discuss various issues, all those positive stories which has happened on the bank of Thames, and the role of diaspora which has added a positive value in this British society. Every week we discuss with different type of guests. We invite different guests and they share their experience and then they enrich us from their experience. But today's story is also a similar story, but I can say this is also a reverse story. The story starts from the Thames River. It starts from Oxford and it reaches to one of the holiest place for Hindus, and that's called Pushkar, which is very near Ajmer, based in Rajasthan, which is in the center part of Rajasthan. And what is the importance of the Pushkar? I think a lot of our historians and travelers, they have written a lot. Even 5 BC, if you find out the writings, even in different coins, you will find out the mention of the Pushkar lake. Fayan, Al-Baruni and all those travelers, even Pushkar was not on the trade route, but still it was a popular destination for Hindus as a holy place. People used to go there, people still go there for a holy dip. There's a famous king from Mandor. He restored those 52 ghats in 8th century. He built marvelous temples, even including Varha temples, which you can see today. In Pushkar you will find different type of ghats. You will find thousands and thousands of temples. And in that woven history, which you can even see, in 15th, 16th and 17th century, there were restrictions from Jahangir. He even demolished the Varha temple. Later on, Aurangzeb has demolished a lot of temples, but again, those temples were rebuilt by the local people. So, this is also a story that Pushkar is also, I can put in this as a small town which is so colorful and it's full of hustle and bustle. You will find thousands and different types of pilgrims, those who come to Pushkar. So a person who was born in Appleton near Oxford went to Pushkar and fall in love. It's called love at first sight. But later on he built a relationship which we in India we call Janam Janam Ka Rishta. So today I would like to invite our guest Marcus Hogg, who is based in Oxford and who frequently visits to India. Marcus Hogg, welcome to our program today.
Very good to join you. It's Marcus Hodge.
Sorry.
But small correction, but delighted to join you. Thank you.
It's great to see you here. And I only introduced one part, the journey from Oxford to Pushkar. But I have not introduced or I have not explained, because I will explore that journey while discussing with Marcus. And that journey will be about his own journey towards painting, the way he does his sculptures, the way he observes all those horses, especially one of the finest horses on this planet, Marwari horses. He has painted thousands of those horses. And he has merged into the color of Rajasthan, and probably, I can put him this way, he has tasted the malpuas from the bylanes of the Pushkar, and he has also enjoyed the evenings near Ghaughat. So, welcome to this program, Marcus, today. And my first question is, what has suddenly happened which has forced you, or maybe which has attracted or inspired you to move from Oxford, Appleton to Pushkar?
Well, I just remembered this afternoon, the first time I went to Pushkar was in 2000, but it was a couple of months after 9/11. And one of the first things I realized when I got to Pushkar was they were so pleased to see us, because so many of the tourists had just cancelled overnight. And for I think the first time in many years, it was really deserted. They would set up all these tents, encampments for tourists, as well as the hotels that would normally be full. And they were all just deserted. So I felt that on that first trip, I got extremely special treatment and I was so well looked after. But I guess I went out there, somebody had mentioned it to me, and I looked online and I saw a video of it. And I saw this and I just thought, this is just the most amazing spectacle you could imagine that takes place just outside this, very, very small, very holy town in the deserts of the Thar Desert. And it looked like a film set to me. It looked like something from a Ridley Scott movie. And I guess I first got on a plane and went out there just in search of adventure and excitement and something new and different. And it delivered so much of that. I mean, more than I had expected, far more. Yeah, very exciting place. So I think I've been there 5 times now. I keep returning.
You are just rekindling my memories which were associated with the Pushkar, because I spent my childhood near the place which is very close to the Pushkar, and I'm able to visualize it is on a junction where in one side you will just see one of the oldest mountains, Aravalli range, and on the other side you can see the desert, and you can also see in between these two extremes is just a very small town, and you will even notice people from all the countries, and you will also find people from all the states of India in the same town on the very same day. You will find their shops, hoardings are in Hebrew, you will find shops, hoardings are in English or maybe German and different languages. So I think it's just amalgamation of all the cultures of the planet. Now, I know, but I think a lot of people, probably those who do not know you, but I think they should know about your personality. Marcus is also a restless person, or a restless spirit, who finds expression in the medium of painting, drawing and sculpture. His work is conceived more instinctively than intellectually, and to quote William Packer, art critic for the Financial Times, he goes off into the wilderness on which to register with remarkable freedom and spontaneity whatever takes his eye. So wherever you will go, you will find something amazing, and then you will paint it, or you will draw it, or you will make a sculpture out of it. Especially even in Rajasthan also, there is a great tradition of painting and sculpturing also. And you have already done few exhibitions in the past, especially about Indian spirituality. Am I right? Was this in 2001, Marcus?
Gosh, goodness, the years are merging for me. 2000? Did you say 2001?
Yeah.
I think 2001 was my first exhibition, solo exhibition in London, and that was a representational exhibition, and that was based mainly on India. I'd made that trip to India, and I came back, and I was working for months and months on this exhibition, and then I had a sort of an attack of nerves, and I thought, what are people going to make of all of these paintings from India? Perhaps this is not going to be, perhaps when people won't get it, they won't understand it, they won't be engaged with it. So in a kind of a slight compromise and a fit of nerves, I dashed up to Scotland and I painted some Scottish landscapes too. So I had a little bit of balance in the show. So
you merged the Scottish Highland with the Aravallis of Pushkar.
Yes, and you know something? That the landscapes in Scotland is really the only landscape here in the UK that I feel a real connection to. It has that same visceral tooth to it that the landscape of Rajasthan has. It's gritty and it's interesting. It's very geographic, and it really sort of pulls you in. But what I discovered with this exhibition, having had this sort of slight attack of nerves, was that when the exhibition opened and we sold, I must say we were very lucky, we sold well. It was back in the days when people were financially more relaxed than they are perhaps today. Everybody bought the Indian stuff. And the Scottish stuff did go, but only afterwards. And I met dozens and dozens of people. And far from English people being disinterested, they were hugely engaged in the subject. And many of them all had stories of antecedents and relatives, or whether it was just their travels, or, again, like Scotland, India sits in the creative imagination of people, even people who've never been there and have no connection. I think just the idea of India is something that is so exciting and thrilling and interesting that people with no connection at all came along and said, no, I'd love to buy this painting, So it was great fun. I really enjoyed it. And it was a big boost of confidence that people gave me.
I think on a lighter note, I can say, Indians believe in rebirth. So
yes,
maybe people those who are buying the painting, maybe in their previous births, probably they were They were just Indians, and then they loved that culture. But anyway,
Yeah, I get that. I sometimes think to myself, I think perhaps they're buying the paintings from an English boy who was previously Indian. I have a feeling. I don't know. So maybe, who knows?
yes. My next question is, after 2001 or 2000, after 2001, you have been to Pushkar, I think, 5 times.
Yes. Yeah.
Is this the only connection with India, or you have any other connection with India, which has which has brought you in there?
Well, I mean, originally, I actually wrote some notes because they just published a small book from the French Museum about my great-grandfather who was in India in sort of 1932. And he went over there to take up a post of Deputy Directorship of Indian Civil Aviation, which he did for a number of years before going on to setting up the Air Training Centre and training primarily at the beginning soldiers from the Indian Army to be pilots and then join the Indian Air Force. And it was because he was out there that my grandmother and subsequently my grandfather, who met her out there, he was in the Indian Navy, they brought me up as a child. And so as a young child at home in England, being brought up by these grandparents, they're just stories about India, and furniture at home was Indian, and often we would eat curries at the weekend. And, they kind of really activated my imagination about India. And so eventually it was somewhere I had to go myself. But at the end of, to answer your question as well in another aspect, at the end of the first trip, we were very lucky to meet a couple called Sheila and Jyoti Bhatnagar. And they lived in Jaipur, and they set up in, when did they set this up? I can tell you. In 2000, a home for girls, abandoned girls. And we became involved in that. And then my mother-in-law and parents-in-law set up a charity here in the UK, run a charity here in the UK, finding sponsors for the girls in the home and just putting them through education. And we've been doing that for 20 years now. And it's been absolutely fantastic. So, and I went on to my things. I wrote a very quick list of what some of these girls are doing, because I think it's fantastic that they can aspire to do all sorts of things. Many are now married and they have children, and they run families. But of a few I just pulled out of the file, we have interior design course degrees. We have Bachelor of Arts and Commerce. We have they've been to university and done BA languages, diplomas in marketing, diplomas in eye hospital courses. We've got girls who have really taken education to university and beyond, and some of them are doing postgraduate degrees. So, they're really achieving an amazing amount. And we as a family, we really believe in supporting female education and the wider opportunities and equal opportunities that can bring. So it's been a tremendous thing to be involved in. We've loved every minute. It's been great.
I think it's an amazing and remarkable journey in these last around 20 years that you have added one extra layer of that type of support for the people, those who are in need. Because normally when people go there, they go either as a traveler, or maybe they will observe certain things and they will experience and they will come back. There's a very handful of people, those who want to go back and want to contribute to the society. If I'm asking you, like, you have stayed in Pushkar for many days, you have been there on many occasions, you have spoken to many people, you have observed the Pushkar Cattle Fair, which happens after Diwali on the Purnima, when millions and millions of people go to the Pushkar and they take the holy dip on the Purnima. So you have observed all those things, and probably in that night everyone is awake in that Pushkar, means no one sleeps on that Purnima night. So
it's quite crazy.
Yeah, it's gone crazy. But you have observed all those things, and if I will ask you, what is your experience about Pushkar? How did you find, and how will you define the Pushkar, if someone will ask?
There's an awful lot to answer in that. But I think probably one of the times that I like going there best is actually they usually give you you find the dates, and the date of the Pushkar Fair is always linked to the lunar month, so the full moon. So it happens the full moon. So it can shift 2 weeks either way. And I actually like to get there really early, because for me the best time is arriving when the town is still really quiet. And there's a sort of quiet, yet there's a real air of expectation about the place and excitement. And if you're there, you can go from the centre of town, which is very busy as all the traders come in from the surrounding areas and start setting up all of their places to sell to the thousands of people that are any minute due to arrive. But walk a few minutes out into the sort of sands beyond, and it's empty, almost empty. But they've cleared the space for the arrival of all these people and the horses and the cattle and the camels. But as you wait over the days, you can see arriving across the desert as the sun goes down, just these camel trains arriving with all of the people coming in from the Tar Desert, and slowly over a few days setting up this encampment, which grows and grows and grows. I think they have about 50,000 animals there during that time. And then as the days go past, it gets fuller and fuller and fuller, and more people are arriving. And in the town itself, actually, it gets so full you can hardly walk down the streets, and it's incredibly exciting, and there's lots of noise. But walk a few minutes out into the desert, despite the fact there are thousands of people, there's a sort of more quiet, deliberate air of purpose as all of these people from the desert are quietly trading their animals and showing their animals, catching up on village gossip and meeting each other for the first time in a long time. And it's so you've got two sides of the same coin there. But it's a thrilling spectacle to witness, and I've not seen anything like it anywhere else. I've got to say, it's one of my favourite things to observe. It really is.
So is this the mixture of the sea of the people and a variety of all those different type of animals and traders? You know, when all these things put together, which makes Pushkar fair. And I think, does it inspire you for your paintings? And when and where did you do first time painting in Pushkar?
Gosh, first time I was painting in Pushkar was just, as I said, on that first trip in 2000. So I was out there painting, and then I've returned over the years. And the wonderful thing about representational painting, when you sit at an easel and you start creating something, or you're looking at something and you're painting it, nothing brings you back into the moment like painting. There's no room for thinking about what happened yesterday or what you're concerned about tomorrow. It brings you into the...
I think in a true sense, or maybe in a spiritual sense, we call you live in the present moment.
It's like a form of meditation. It's wonderful. So you can work an entire day and you come out, and despite the fact you might be very tired, you also feel rather kind of serene and relaxed at the same time. But I've made a journey as an artist over the last few years from very representational painting, and I have an exhibition of representational painting coming up in October, in a few weeks' time, in London. But also I moved into a world of abstract painting, because what I discovered over the years in India is that there were themes in areas that I visited that required something more than just representation. These were themes of, common themes that we share as human beings, that I thought if you could explore it in an abstract language, which is a very open language, then it allows the viewer to come and view the work they're viewing, but they bring their own life's experiences. And it's a very communal thing, but I think it's something that brings people closer together in this sort of ever more fractured world we're living in. So, for example, I spent some time in Varanasi, which I was blown away by. It's the most extraordinary city. And just observing the cremation pyres, where people are, let me get this right, they are going from samsara to moksha, hopefully, one of the 7 holy cities. And if they have the good fortune to be there and to pass there and be burned on the edges of the Ganges, they achieve moksha, liberation, spiritual liberation. And as a Westerner, and I think we're not particularly good at dealing with death over here, as a Westerner to go over there and see, yes, sadness, but also tremendous celebration and joy at lives well lived and achieving this great spiritual liberation at the end of it, and for the family members to be gathered around and witness this, that was something that I hadn't seen. And so representational painting couldn't begin to nail that down for me. So I did an exhibition on abstract painting called Breaking the Cycle, which is the cycle of birth, living, birth, rebirth, and achieving moksha. And those canvases are entirely abstract, but they allow people to bring their own experience when they look at the paintings. So I'm sitting in front of an abstract painting, for example.
I can see that.
And this was from my last trip to Dharamsala, McLeod Ganj above Dharamsala to the Dalai Lama's compound. And, the experience of walking systematically every morning clockwise around his compound and turning the prayer wheels clockwise, and the prayer flags that cover everywhere, trees, gateposts, anything, and are breaking. And this, again, it's an idea that you can explore, I think, far more openly with abstract painting. But the other thing I'll go on about this, you better stop, because once I start talking about painting, that's it.
When you was discussing this about Dharamshala and all those places, then I was just intrigued. You visited Pushkar, you visited Varanasi, and you visited Dharamshala. All those places where you can absorb the spiritual essence of India. And when you absorb that essence, and when you put it on the canvas with the help of the paint, and I think it creates a complete picture for all those people, those who has not visited that place. So you are also, you're not only very good with the paint and the brush, you're also very good with words, because when you describe, it seems that you are creating that scene or recreating that scene for me and the audience.
The visual aspect of India has got such a gorgeous narrative to it. It's hard to be out there and someone says, well, look, write a paragraph about your experience yesterday and in front of the gateway of India in Mumbai, or as the sun dips into the Arabian Ocean, and it's the most remarkable place. It's suddenly hard not to start writing like a poet, because the words it's such a beautiful place that it inspires a narrative beyond that you might normally use in lovely old England. I love England, don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful place to live. But India is a place where just, imagination collides with reality. I've never been to a place like that, where every single day you can experience the joy of the unexpected. I mean, I remember the first time I went out there, and sitting in my room in a small hotel in Jaipur, and opened the window and I looked out, and an elephant walked past on the way to the Amber Palace. I mean, to someone living in Jaipur, that might be as normal as seeing a black taxi in London, but to me on my first trip out there, that was just like, it was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. It was spectacular. And it's that excitement that keeps you wanting to go back. I mean, I've been, I think, 14 times now to India, and I've got to the point now when I'm in England for a while, I feel homesick. I want to go back, I need that hit. But if I could just go back one conversation previously, going back to the girls at Shila Bal Bhavan, the Home for Girls, I think for me, India has also created something important for me. It's completed a circle for me, because my lovely grandparents brought me up, and they spent a lovely time in India, and India was very good for them, and they had tons of good memories. And then they were very good to me in turn when I needed it. And meeting that home, the good fortune to come across that home and work with these girls, and one of the young girls that is our sponsor daughter, Sita, she's 28 years old now, and she lives and works in Delhi. She's a young professional woman, and I often think to myself, if my grandparents are possibly out there somewhere looking down, and they could see the girls and they could see Sita, somehow that's brought the whole thing full circle. I think they would love it. I think they would just love it, and it gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling to think of them seeing it. So, it's been great, yeah. And I think I shall just keep continuing to go back,
We have a lot of questions. We will also discuss about your previous exhibition. We will also discuss about your future exhibition, which is proposed in London and other places.
Yes.
Your painting style, how Marwari horses also inspired you. We will discuss all these topics after the break. But in the meantime, I would like to request to our audience, please stay with us after the break, and we will discuss a few more colorful things which will add more color to our life.
Thank Thank you.
Did you open the bank account?
I did that at the airport in India itself.
How?
With ICICI Bank's UKI mobile app, you can open your current account and transfer money to your loved ones in India instantly.
And the NRI account?
ICICI Bank UK representative came home with a tab and opened my NRI account.
At Middleton's, we present our Discovery scooter. Let's take a closer look. Available in copper, red or purple. Easily fold and unfold using the remote control, or the buttons on the rear of the scooter itself. Folding within 20 seconds. And weighing in at only 20 kilograms, this compact scooter adjusts to fit inside most car boots. Middleton's. Live life without limits.
Pioneering research at Great Ormond Street Hospital is helping to save the lives of children with rare and complex conditions. This groundbreaking research urgently needs your support to help find new cures.
The gene-skipping trial at Great Ormond Street hopefully will lead to a cure.
Over 1,000 researchers in our world-leading team work tirelessly to find cures for seriously ill children from across the UK. Please give £5 a month. Call 0800 055 7975, text RESEARCH to 70125 or search GOSH Research Fund.
An accurate online valuation of your home that could be delivered in just 15 minutes. Oh. Smart Valve from Booman, truly a game changer.
It's for her. It's for him.
Let's go!
It's for them. If you aren't around. Life insurance from Legal & General starts from just £6 a month and could help support your loved ones financially if the worst happens to you. You'll also receive a £100 gift card after you take out cover. Life insurance. It's for them. Get your quote today.
Beauty is about embracing who you really are. Beauty tools precisely crafted with an 18-karat gold-plated head to gently sweep away hair for smooth, polished skin. Be you. Be flawless.
Flawless Brows is the instant, easy, and pain-free way to precisely remove stray hairs, giving you perfect control for perfectly shaped brows. Only $19.99 from Asda, Boots, the original factory shop, and Wilco.
An alternative to tablets, Voltarol Back and Muscle Pain Relief Gel, with its powerful anti-inflammatory active ingredient, targets the source of pain, helping to accelerate recovery. It's not just movement, it's enjoying the new bedroom. Voltarol, the joy of movement.
Whether it's a weekend adventure or a midweek commute, we've got you covered. With 10% of new customers paying £170 or less, and features like our uninsured driver promise that helps protect your no-claims discount in excess if involved in an accident with an uninsured driver, now is the time to switch to Co-op Car Insurance. Switch to us today by searching Co-op Car Insurance or calling 0800 115 115. Co-op, it's what we do.
Hey, I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Yeah. No. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Go on. Go on, girl.
Boom, banger, boom, shakalaka.
Stop it.
Yeah!
Get ready to win big with Big Buzz Special Bingo. With 250k winners a week on average, you'd better get practicing that win base.
Yeah. Yeah.
Find your nearest club and play online at buzzbingo.com.
At Glasses Direct, all of these glasses are 2 pairs for £16 with lenses. Get your glasses your way at glassesdirect.co.uk.
Care wildly with £10 off your first order at bloomandwild.com.
Please help our researchers find cures for children with life-threatening illnesses. Call 0800 055 7976 or go online now.
Welcome back on Thames Speaks on Sky 711 MA TV. So our today's program was focused on our honorable guest, Marcus, and he famously quoted, and he said, which really struck my heart, he mentioned, India is a place where imagination collides with reality. He also famously wrote in one of his book, about Pushkar, and I really want to read it out in front of him and so that audience can enjoy that part. Pushkar Camel Fair is a yearly livestock and religious event in the town of Pushkar in Rajasthan, India. Every year the small town comes to life with thousands of visitors. Tribal families from the villages in the Thar district arrive over many days, many in camel trains and horses and cattle to trade, a chance to exchange news and enjoy one of India's most colorful gatherings. So I agree, this is also a good term where you explained it's one of the India's most colorful gathering. But when tiny streets are packed with religious pilgrims and visitors, a riot of color and noise. That is also a third amazing sentence which I can feel about the Pushkar. But venture few minutes into the desert and the atmosphere changes, a sea of tents and campfires. This is what you have already explained, the second part.
Yeah.
So I was just picking few key words which you have written, like riots of colors and noise. And it's one of the most colorful gathering in India. And I think color is the identity of that particular place. And color is the identity of a famous painter. There are a lot of all those painters who became so famous. I think without the love of their color, probably no one can succeed. So I think they found this is source of inspiration. There is only one reason, because Pushkar is full of colors. You can see color of joy, you can see the color of happiness, you can see the color of sadness and sorrow as well. So it's mixture of all those colors, philosophically speaking, and it's a great chance. I know we have discussed about your first exhibition in 2001. Now, are you planning to organize one more exhibition? I think it's in October. You're planning in London. What is this exhibition about? What are you going to present in this particular exhibition, and what type of audience you are targeting in this exhibition?
Right, so this is an exhibition in the Osborne Studio Gallery, which is in, I can't remember, Morecambe Street. It's tucked behind Harrods in Belgravia. And it opens on the 5th of October, and I think it's open until the 27th of October.
On a lighter note, you have already added a tag of Harrods on your paintings.
No, I wouldn't do that. But it's a gallery I had a solo exhibition in 4 years ago, I think, 4 years ago. And for me, this is a return from abstract painting to representational painting. However, I may twist his arm to put a few abstract paintings in a room separately, I think, if I'm lucky. But it's based on two themes. It's from Andalusia in southern Spain to India, Pushkar. And really two of the places that I'd been to a number of times and wanted to re-explore was the connection between festivals and horses and animals in two very diverse and disparate cultures. And so you've got Pushkar Camel from Cattle Fair in Rajasthan, but I also went to this amazing horse fair in El Rocío in the province of Huelva in Andalusia, southern Spain. And again, rather like Pushkar, this is a religious-based festival. So brotherhoods from all over Spain over a period of weeks converge on El Rocío, and they bring their horses and their cattle and their caravans, these beautiful traditional festive caravans, and they arrive in El Rocío and they celebrate there, giving thanks to a statue of the Virgin Mary that has been there since the 17th century. And they celebrate and they give thanks and they do some religious festivals, and then they disappear once again and they go back. And I joined the Brotherhood of El Jerez over 3 days, walking with the cattle and the horses, sleeping in the tents of the animals' hooves and feet, over 3 days going through a national park of Doñana. And as an experience, it had a lot of parallels to Pushkar. And one of the things that I've always find most touching and I love most of all is just the animal husbandry, the connection that people have to the animals of various descriptions. You see it in Pushkar when you venture out there. The animals don't live down the end of a field in a paddock. They live right in the heart of the family. You'll see the family sitting and cooking at the end of the day, and the horse and the cattle, even the camel, are within feet of them, and they're sharing food. And it's always very touching to see how what an important and central role they play in family life.
I think cattle has played a major role, or they were always center of the family in Asian culture. This is you can think about many. It can be horse, it can be cow or buffaloes, or different animals. You will definitely notice one thing: it was always part of the family. So this is about your next exhibition, which is going to happen in October. And as I said already, that you have already tagged a price tag from Harrods. I think you have already bought it, and because it's just behind the Harrods, so people will be in the mind that this will be the price of your paintings.
You're going to get me in trouble. But central to these paintings of India is always the Marwari horse. I think that India has really got a very spectacular and beautiful breed of horse in India, and it's a breed of horse that very nearly, almost disappeared. When the British were in India, they were brought over their polo ponies and their thoroughbreds. And, they rather looked at this sort of rather smaller, tougher desert horse in India as a rather sort of inferior breed of horse. And it was only, I think, in the early 1900s that the previous Maharaja of Jodhpur opened the first stud book for the Marwari horses and really started to breed the Marwari horse seriously and bring it back to the sort of, the increased strength that the breed has today. And it's among the finest breeds of horses that you're going to find anywhere in the world. And it's really beautiful, really beautiful.
Yes, Marwari horses, they are very spirited, brave, loyal. They have a thin skin which allow them to release their extreme heat, and they're sturdy and hard. Once, famously, Winston Churchill, he mentioned that no hour of life is wasted that is spent on the saddle. So the way you mentioned earlier, that even you spend the whole day for painting, you don't feel tired. So in the same way, I think Winston Churchill, he mentioned that no hour is wasted from the life when you are on the saddle. So it seems, I can feel that three dots. Even if you are working with the horses, if you're painting, or if you're doing meditation, in all these three things, there's one thing is common. You live in the present moment. You cannot live in past or future. You have to live in present moment, and that's why you enjoy. This is what suddenly I was gathering from this conversation, that how come, these three things are linking up it here, and then suddenly I realized that, the essence of meditation on spirituality is this, that you should live in the present moment, and your mind shouldn't dwell about past and future. And all these three things focus on present moment only. Now,
yes, there was one other quote from Winston Churchill. He said, "There is something about the outside of a horse that is very good for the inside of a man." And I think that's a terrific quote, because I believe that. But it's another reason why I think teaching is a really important thing. I teach painting, and I think teaching painting is a very important thing, principally because through the art of painting, it has all these wonderful meditative qualities to it. It brings you into the now, but it's very difficult to be, when you're fully engaged in the work, of being creative and sort of tapping into your emotions about things. It's very difficult to be angry or bitter or, tied up in knots over some aspect or other or anything. I think it's genuinely very, very good for people. And I think if everybody took up a little bit of painting, the world would be a good place. So I think teaching painting is also, something that's important in my working life.
So, do you teach in Oxford or do you teach in India?
I would love to teach in India. If anybody out there wants to learn painting, I'm your man. I'll come. But also to say that I love the Indian school of miniature painting. I go to this school in Udaipur to look at them do their work and everything. And I love the way they're doing it. I'd love to teach painting out there and find the connections between the two techniques, because there are many. And I often find myself in the studio having looked at some beautiful Mughal miniatures or something. I was up in the Victoria and Albert Museum the other day looking at all the Mughal miniatures. And then I find myself the next day in the studio with ever increasingly smaller brushes doing the details. I love it, So it's very different from this kind of expressive, physical kind of work. I teach at a little art school near here, which I love doing. And I do, when we were locked down last year and we couldn't do anything, I wrote some courses which I can send out automatically, and people can do. The course has books which have videos of me in painting with instructions and a task for the student to complete every week. And then we have a WhatsApp video call and we just discuss painting together. It's great fun, and I think actually that's the most instructive part, is discussing, because technique is one thing. How to do it, how you put something together technically. But I think mental attitude is something people don't talk about enough when it comes to work of art and everything, because it's the difference between heaven and hell is in the thinking, and that's what Shakespeare said, and I love that. And it's about creating the right mental platform so that you can work through a task, and with the right attention, it's a completely different task. You approach it with ease and focus and concentration instead of battling it. And I think this is true for the arts. I think it's true for sportsmen when they talk about being in the zone. That's what they're talking about. And having the right attitude for that is developing, which is something we can develop, is an aspect about painting that's every bit as important as the physical technique.
I was just, I think, merged into the conversation. So I was just thinking about how things are and how people can visualize all those combinations of different colors, and then they can create this on the wider canvas.
Yes.
My next question will be also an interesting question, and I always ask this question to any guest, those who come to this program, and that question is about their favorite book, which they either read in the past or they're still reading. And I really want to know, why did they like it? What is the reason behind this? So, Marcus, what's your favorite book? I think audience and we all want to know. And what is the reason behind it?
Well, choosing a favorite book from over the years is very hard, but one that will be among my top favorite books for sure, and I haven't finished it yet, but it's Inglorious Empire by Shashi Tharoor. And I'm reading that at the moment. And I think what I love, I've got a copy here actually, what I love is even on the front cover, which is a lovely front cover, he sort of sets the tone of the book on the front cover. Shashi Tharoor, Inglorious Empire, and then instead of writing what happened to India, he writes what the British did to India. It's not a passive statement. And I believe it's well researched, this book. But as he says, it's not something that we're taught in the schools. And I agree with him wholeheartedly that it is something that we should be learning and something we should be taught, because it's part of our history. It's a very important part of our history. And as he says, if you want to know where you're going, you really do have to know where you're coming from. And I'm taking my time reading this because it's a book that's dense with information and facts and figures. It's jaw-dropping, actually, when you start to go through it. And again, it has made me really reconsider my relationship to, with respect to my family in India in past years, with respect to my relationship to the Home for Girls in Jaipur. It makes you really question yourself and your motivations and all sorts of things. But it is nevertheless a thumping good read. I would recommend it to anybody. I think it's well researched, well written, and again he mentions this. I'm always watching these talks on YouTube, and it's invariably there's Shashi and William Dalrymple and other people. But the one thing that I particularly like about this is that Shashi often says, a critical analysis of the British Empire, but he says there's no room for bitterness. And I think that's great, because that invites you as the reader, and invites you as a British person to come dive into this book, and without feeling that you have a position to defend. This is history. This happened, and learning about it is very important, because when you know about these histories, we can all, as people from all nations, all colours, all creeds, everywhere, we can do better. As we move into the future. And it's a very, very important history. I mean, a lot of people are, such as the National Trust, for example, I know that they are re-evaluating the history of many of their properties. And it's very important that they do so that we have a clearer picture of what happened, why.
I agree with you. I think it doesn't matter that you agree with that particular part of the history or not.
Yeah.
You support that particular part of the history or not, but at least the new generation should be aware of the crystal clear truth.
Yes.
So, history teaches us the clarity, and it also teaches about what has happened in the past, and it gives a way. It also shows a pathway in future that this is how we should behave. Otherwise, we will commit the same mistakes which we have committed in the past. So, history teaches us.
Yeah. I mean, a good example of this is I was watching the other night a two-part program. Oh gosh, I've forgotten who was on it now. It's called The Great Game, two-part program made in 2012 about history of Afghanistan.
And it was made by Rory Stewart.
That's it, Rory Stewart.
Yes.
I think Rory Stewart is fantastic, and the program is brilliant. And if it's one thing that two-part episode teaches us, we're not learning a damn thing. I mean, it was amazing. And at the end of part one, he talks about the end of the first campaign, and he said this would be like as if the Americans left Afghanistan today and handed power to the Taliban. And 9 years later, here we are, and his words are resonating now. And it's
I completely
yes,
agree. And I think recently in this 1 month, everyone started watching that program, which was just directed and prepared by Rory Stewart, and he was really very close to the real truth 9 years ago.
Yeah, and I was very fortunate, I think. Again, being part of a history that you don't, and political decisions you do not necessarily agree with, but an artist sometimes is an observer. You just want to be there very quiet and you want to observe things happening around the world. But I was very fortunate, I think, gosh, when I'm thinking, 9 years ago, I went out to Afghanistan, to Sangin Market, with the 3 rifles, and I spent many weeks out there. And they actually sent me back early because they were taking tremendous losses, and they didn't want to have to worry about an artist. And I was commissioned to go out there and create a large painting for one of the regiments. But the opportunity to firsthand go and experience what it was like to be in a village in Afghanistan and drive through the countryside. I know that that's not as it would be in normal times, but nevertheless, amazingly beautiful countryside. But when you compare that to being in India, it is a very different experience, despite being geographically very close. Yes, I mean, just to go back to the original point, it does show us just how important it is to learn the history. My daughter did history at Durham University. She graduated 4 years ago, and we were talking about Shashi's book the other day, and she said they didn't introduce the topic of British colonial history until the 3rd year, and it was a minor topic, and it's something that she has subsequently become very interested in herself. So yes, great book. I recommend it to everybody.
I completely agree with you, and definitely I will read the book, and I will definitely send you my reviews about the book. Apart from this,
look forward to it.
You have visited different places, not only in India, you have visited abroad, and you have seen the amalgamation of different cultures, communities, colors, and you have seen different, I can say, combinations of all those things. My next question is very simple. When you were in India, have you heard of Raja Ravi Verma? He was also a very famous painter. And have you heard of Raja Ravi Verma?
I'm afraid I haven't. No.
Ravi
is
Verma.
He temporary, or is he still with us, or?
No, he was a painter from South India, and he was the person who has painted all these Indian gods and goddesses. Because in that era there was no photograph and there was no painting. So he read all those books, he painted them, and he was the person who has transformed the Indian system in that era, because he printed his own paintings and sold it.
Wow. Okay. So, I'll have to do some homework on this.
Yeah. So when you were talking about Shashi Tharoor, then suddenly I thought, I read recently about Raja Ravi Verma, then I thought I should definitely share this with Marcus. And if you read about Ravi Verma, definitely then probably either he will find an amazing or interesting link, or he may see that sometimes painters, they change the perception of the whole nation, and he was one of them. He was commissioned by all the Maharajas, kings and other people for their own paintings, or maybe paintings of God and someone else. And he earned an amazing amount of money in that era. But he invested that money to create or to recreate or reprint his own paintings, so that those paintings can reach to common man's house. So in a way, he was a truly democratic painter who has democratized the paintings in that age, when paintings were rare.
I will have to look him up.
Yes. Now,
a hole in my education.
Yes. There's one more question which I didn't ask, but I thought I will ask you towards the end of the program. You visited on many occasions. Definitely you might have heard one language, and that's called Hindi. How was your experience, and what did you feel about the Hindi language?
Well, a Hindi language, I mean, when you first go out there, it's a very, very foreign sounding language. And having studied painting in Spain for 5 years, I speak fluent Spanish.
Yeah.
And I learned French as a child growing up. And then I discovered that the Hindi language is actually, it's an Indo-European language. And so it shares the same roots going back through Latin and Sanskrit and everything. So I decided a couple of years ago I'd have a crack at it myself, because you find yourself out in these places like Pushkar, and I've just discovered over the years that, better to speak a little bit of someone's language, albeit badly, than not to have a go at all, because, you can speak French, and that's not too uncommon for the French to be dealing with an Englishman speaking bad French. But for someone to turn up in India and be making an effort to speak Hindi, I get met with just tremendous enthusiasm from people. And, it opens doors, it opens opportunities, it creates a sort of a connection with those human beings that would otherwise not be connected. They're delighted that you're making just this small bit of effort. And just as an intellectual and stimulating pastime, I think it's great fun. I love language. It's amazing to speak it. So it's been a journey. The girls laugh at me when I try and speak Hindi.
Before we finish, I would. Yeah. Maybe not only the girls. Maybe we all want to know. We all want to hear a few words from your mouth, from that language which you've learned in these years.
Whoa. Okay, so thank you. You're putting me on the spot. What can I say? Well, मेरा नाम मार्कस हॉज है. मैं अंग्रेज हूँ. मैं एप्पल्टन से हूँ. मैं हिंदी बोलता हूँ. मुझको भारत बहुत पसंद है. How's that?
You're a very good Hindi speaker, and I think you can.
मेरी हिंदी समझ सकते हैं?
मेरी हिंदी बहुत अच्छी तो नहीं कह सकता हूँ, लेकिन आपके मुकाबले इतनी अच्छी नहीं है.
धन्यवाद, कोई बात नहीं.
तब मुझे लगता है I will end this program in Hindi. We will definitely meet you, visit you when you will have your exhibition in October. But
that would be wonderful.
Yes.
Definitely.
From today's conversation, I can figure it out 2-3 things. How to live in present moment. It's not just meditation. There are different things which people can do, and finally they can attain the moksha, which is just the joint points. In the end, देश और काल के प्रसार में शून्यता अशब्दता अपार में चांद जब घूमता है कौन सुख पाता है. भेद ये मेरी समझ में तब आता है होता हूं जब मैं अपने भीतर के प्रांत में भीड़ से दूर किसी निभृत एकांत में, और तभी समझ पाता हूं पेड़ झूमता किस मोद में है, खड़ा हुआ एकाकी पर्वत की गोद में है, बहता पवन बहुत मंद मंद है, पत्तों के हिलने में छंद है, कितना आनंद है. So ये आनंद आपका और मेरा बना रहे और आप अपने परिवार के साथ आनंद में रहें, जो ऑडियंस है वो भी आनंद में रहें, ऐसी मेरी सबकी सब प्रार्थना है। आज के इस कार्यक्रम में आने के लिए मैं श्री मार्कस हर्ज को धन्यवाद ज्ञापित करता हूं और आशा करता हूं कि उनके साथ हम अगले कार्यक्रम और जल्दी करेंगे। आज के लिए बस इतना ही। शुभ रात्रि, धन्यवाद।
Thank you.
Did you open the bank account?
I did that at the airport in India itself.
How?